rate, that becomes an issue. And one thing that has also become an issue is that gender gap, hasn't it? The World Economic Forum releasing its global gender gap report for 2018, it's found that South Africa makes it into the top 20 of our gender gap index this year, and that's just above Switzerland and ranks 19th out of 149 countries, and that the country is ranked first in health and survival of women, which accounts for sex ratio at birth and healthy life expectancy. For more on this, we're joined by Roberto Crotti, who is senior economist at the World Economic Forum. Roberto, we really do appreciate your time. What are the 4 areas you cover when compiling this report then?
Thank you. When we look at the gender gap across the world, we look at 4 dimensions. So we consider how well are women and men comparatively in the workplace, their position in terms of education and health and survival, and also political empowerment. Yeah. We use 14 statistics to measure these aspects, and we look at the ratio basically between female and male in all these aspects.
Yeah, you said it will take around 108 years to close some of the gaps we have here. This is an absolutely a long time, even 202.
Yes, we look at the trend that happened between 2006, when we started to benchmark gender gap, and today, and we do an estimation, and we see if the progress continued the same rate that we've seen so far, holding everything equal, of course, then it will take 108 years for the full gender gap to be closed. And then when we look, but this just provides an idea of how long it's going to take on average. When we look at different dimensions, of course, there's different trends and therefore different length. And when we look at the trend at the economic type of gender gap has progressed over these 12 years, we see that the progress has been very slow, and that's why it's going to take, according to the estimation, 200 plus years to close the gap.
Roberto, let's talk about Iceland then, holding the top spot for what is it, the 10th year in a row now, being able to close that gender gap by around 85.8%. What are the lessons that we can learn from them? Or what are they getting right that we perhaps aren't, not just in South Africa, but in other countries as well?
Yeah, we've seen that in the top 5 countries, there are many Nordic countries which have, to some extent, a similar model. Not only they have closed already educational and health gap, but their differentiating factors are how they treat women on the workplace and also on political empowerment. And specifically when it comes to economic participation, they've been particularly good at allowing women to participate to the workplace in the first place. So it's that has a lot to do with how they deal with care and the infrastructure that allow women to participate better in the workforce.
Yeah. Roberto, here's some that are perhaps a little confusing in some sense. You have the Middle East, and you even have North America ranking right at the bottom of this scale. One would have thought that especially the Americans would have wanted to hold themselves a lot higher in this regard. What is it that they're getting so wrong in that context?
So of course, there's a bit of a difference between the two regions. The Middle East and North Africa, there is they're having a hard time to close, especially the economic and political empowerment gender gap, especially when it comes to participation at work and women in high position and in the political arena. We've seen that not many countries have women in this position in Middle East. Yeah. And that's been lagging for a long time. When it comes to North America, we're basically tracking US and Canada, and US is below the 50th position, and there is also a little bit of lagging behind in terms of political empowerment, especially because they never had a woman as a head of state over the past 50 years.
Yeah. Roberto Crotti, really appreciate your time there, man, and I really hope that we can make some inroads and that next year we speak about the exact same index and we see that perhaps it'll take a whole lot shorter time to get that done. That's Roberto Crotti, who is senior economist out at the World Economic Forum. Indeed, that gender pay gap is something that must be attacked with severity, right? Just as we've put in a minimum wage and the like as well, we surely must get in something that is going to ensure that this is dealt with ASAP. More business news coming up after this.